you? What's going on? It's DJ Kadero. And welcome to the Diaspora Show. Yes. It is Monday, June 1st. Imagine we are halfway through this Gregorian calendar. Woo-wee! June 1st, 2026. And I'm your host, DJ Kadero, here on the Diaspora Show. For those that don't know, this is how the show goes. First, I give you guys the Diaspora news. That's top stories going on in Africa, the Caribbean, and anywhere else that the African diaspora is centered. Then I give you guys words of wisdom through the African proverb of the day. The African proverb of the day. Looking at the African proverb of the day. It can either be a life lesson, an affirmation, or anything of the sort. It's your interpretation, remember. After that, I am one of the baddest Afro DJs in the game, huh? And I get busy on these ones and twos. I'm going to give you the best beats, the best vibes, the best melodies. And it's Monday. Not just that, it's Reggae Monday. So everything I said everything you done know. So I'm spinning the best of what the Caribbean has to offer. With that being said, like Gen Z and Gen Alpha like to say, man, stop yapping. I'm going to stop yapping. And let's go ahead and let's get into the Diaspora news. Come on.
Live from 879 Studios in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Diaspora News with your anchor, DJ Kadero.
That's me. Let's get into it. What's up? Woo! What's good? What's poppin'? Habari gani? Namna gani? Dana bud. Kefi tuku male mugwa. Salam alaikum. What else do I know? Que paso? Que lo que? Que onda? Hey. What's up, y'all? How you guys doing, man? Konnichiwa. Ni hao. How you guys, man? How was your guys' weekend, huh? Was it nice? Sugar, spice, and everything nice? I know what we was getting involved here in Omaha. The radio station 879, The Culture, where you're hearing us from. We had a stage. I call it a stage. We had a tent. We had a vendor tent at Taste of Omaha this past weekend. All 3 days, huh? And I was there spinning on my ones and twos. I was getting busy too, boy. Friday and Saturday. What's going on, man? If you saw me, go ahead and let me know in the chat. Yes, we have a chat. So in the app that you're listening to me on, fourth category on the bottom from the left is the group chat tab. Click on it and it will ask for you to create a username and password if you do not already have one once you click enter to chat. The username can be anything. It can be anything that you want. Just try to keep it as appropriate as possible. The password keep for yourself. And then we'll be able to see your thoughts, comments, and views on anything that happens here on the Diaspora Show and any of our other programs that we have throughout the week here on 87.9, The Culture, where hip-hop and R&B lives. Let's go to the chat and see if anybody has greeted us. Oh, you guys know they greet, huh? That's fine. Let's go ahead and let's get into our top stories going on here for June 1st. Can you guys believe? Hold on, I just want to say that it's June 1st. June 1st, like serious. It's June 1st, guys. Omaha, we're halfway done with 2026. How many of you guys didn't think that you guys would be alive to even see the 2020, let alone 2026? So big up yourself because you're alive. You're alive, huh? All right, let's go ahead and let's get into our first top story, and it deals with Kenya and the United States disregarding a court order. Yeah. They said what court order, huh? All right, let's go ahead and let's get into it. The High Court in Kenya has temporarily blocked an agreement between Washington, D.C. and Kenyan officials to build an Ebola quarantine and isolation facility at the Laikipia Air Base in Kenya. Despite the legal pause, reports indicate that efforts are still being pushed to go ahead and begin construction on the Center for Ebola Patients of U.S. Citizenship. For more on this, we go on the ground. I'm not even going to try to imagine what's going on there, but they can tell you. We go to Kenya, and we start off with Nation TV. Let's go!
Despite that court order, 2 U.S. military aircrafts carrying medical personnel and equipment for the Ebola containment facility have already landed in Laikipia Air Base. This is our earlier story, which Kevin Mutai has been working on, and here are the details.
Number one, the Kenyan government is currently establishing an Ebola quarantine and treatment facility in Laikipia County in partnership with the United States government, according to flight radar and details from multiple sources. One of the aircrafts bearing registration number US Rogue E-50 landed in Laikipia Air Base Sunday morning, reportedly carrying equipment and medical personnel to be deployed at the facility. The U.S. military plane is believed to have departed Ramstein Air Base and landed in Kenya in readiness for the establishment of the treatment and isolation camp. The camp is designed to treat American citizens exposed to the virus after the current outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States. And so the State Department and other agencies represented here, the Centers for Disease Control, HHS, others are working very, very hard to contain this crisis.
The highly contagious disease is suspected to have caused at least 220 deaths and more than 900 infections so far, according to reports from the Congolese authorities. The Kenyan government is proceeding with plans, blatantly ignoring a court order issued by the High Court following a lawsuit by Katiba Institute and the Law Society of Kenya. Katiba Institute argued that there was an imminent threat to life, questioning Kenya's preparedness in dealing with the deadly virus. The court issued interim orders after considering the matter as of public interest, halting the program until the lawsuit is heard and determined. This also comes in the wake of heightened public concern and widespread criticism over the safety of Kenyans.
I want to ask the United States of America, since there is a court order stopping the establishment of that center in Kenya, show us a way in observing the rule of law. Don't join Kenya in disobeying a court order and practicing impunity.
The project has faced widespread opposition from a section of leaders, civil society organizations, and doctors' unions, with critics arguing that placing exposed U.S. citizens in the country with zero reported Ebola cases compromises the country's health systems. The government is reportedly expected to receive more than $10 million to facilitate the project.
This government and any responsible government should look at putting Kenya first. Serikali hii wajiita Kenya kwanza, but in this case, hawajaweka Kenya kwanza. They are looking at the American dollars.
The initiative is meant to strengthen monitoring, isolation, and emergency response, as well as containment of the highly infectious disease. A total of 18 samples from Ebola virus disease alerts have been tested across various regions, including Nairobi, Kiambu, Uasin Gishu, Nyeri, Nakuru, Nyamira, West Pokot, and Kisumu, and they all...
Sheesh! Hey, once again, if you're just joining in, I am DJ Kadero and your host here on the Diaspora News. That's on the Diaspora show, exclusively on 87.9 The Culture, where hip-hop and R&B lives. We're getting into our first story, discussing how the United States and Kenya have agreed to build an Ebola treatment facility for American citizens that have contracted the Ebola Budibuyo strain in the country. But instead of those American citizens flying back to the United States to receive treatment, the United States and Kenya government officials have agreed to build a center in a country that the outbreak has not ever been. Again, if you're just following in, the outbreak has started in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and some parts of Uganda, but Kenya has not been touched. Let's go further more into this story. So the African diaspora is mobilizing. Tensions have reached a boiling point, really, with this situation. But let's dive into exactly on how, in this case, the United States is seeking to establish a quarantine facility. Again, for Ebola. an outbreak that hasn't even touched this East African country of Kenya. This is a grim reality currently playing out in Kenya. You see, following the recent surge of the Buyo strain of Ebola in Central Africa, again, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda, officials from both Kenya and the United States collaborated on a facility located at an air base in Laikipia. This plan has sparked massive outrage, public outrage, and again, a fierce legal battle. But the Supreme Court in Kenya, known as the High Court, the High Court in Kenya had ruled against this and said, this is illegal. We need to have a case about this. We're ordering you to stop. But the U.S. and Kenyan officials said, What you guys heard in that news clip was the former Vice President of Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua, saying that, United States, we ask that you show us the way in obeying court orders. I don't think the Vice President or the former Vice President of Kenya understands that the United States has a great history of refusing to abide by any rule of law. For more on the outrage on, again, Kenyan and U.S. officials disregarding court orders from the Kenyan High Court on stopping this facility for Ebola patients of U.S. citizenship to get built, we go to our awesome CNN affiliate journalist, Mr. Larry Maduo. Larry, talk to us.
If Ebola is too dangerous for Americans, it is too dangerous for Kenyans.
Well, a high court in Kenya has temporarily suspended plans for the U.S. to establish an Ebola quarantine center in the country. The Trump administration wants to open a 50-bed quarantine unit to house U.S. citizens who are potentially exposed to Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The plans have drawn widespread criticism. Kenya hasn't reported any cases from the current Ebola outbreak in its territory. CNN's Larry Maduro is in Nairobi with the latest.
Why do Americans think that their lives are more important than the lives of Kenyans? That appears to be the national mood here, the overall sentiment across the country. There is near universal opposition to this U.S. plan to set up an Ebola quarantine facility or isolation ward in the country for Americans. And now a judge has agreed that it might endanger public health, at least temporarily. A Kenyan High Court judge ruling that the Kenyan government cannot get into disagreement with the U.S. It cannot admit, transfer, or in any way allow anybody exposed to Ebola or with confirmed Ebola to come into the country until this plays out in the court. That's until June 2nd, when the Katiba Institute, this is the civil society group that filed this suit, will have their moment before this judge to explain why they're opposed to it. But they're not the only ones. The Law Society of Kenya has also filed a constitutional petition to essentially block the Kenyan government from doing this because, again, the same argument is that if Ebola is too dangerous for Americans, it is too dangerous for Kenyans. The Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, that is the union representing 10,000 plus doctors in public and private hospitals, are opposed to it. They say that Kenya is a sovereign nation. It is not a geopolitical isolation ward, and that they will not allow the Kenyan government to give up public safety for foreign aid. That reference is because the U.S. has said it is committing $13.5 million to Kenya for Ebola preparedness efforts.
It is important that any arrangement that the government is having with the U.S. government on the issue of containment of the Ebola patient must be discussed transparently. Because there must be something that is known even to the government, that once the disease has come to the country, you cannot limit it. And that's the reason why the government of the U.S. has said they will ensure that there's no any Ebola patient in their territory. That means they feel like it is too dangerous for Americans, and therefore it must also be too dangerous for Kenyans.
Many Kenyans are offended by repeated statements from U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He said that the U.S. priority is to protect U.S. citizens and that they will do everything to ensure that Ebola does not get to the U.S. The corollary here, the way people see it here in Kenya, is that they're saying, oh, you can have Ebola over there in Kenya, but it cannot come to the U.S. even if they're American citizens. And that is why there's this universal opposition to it. Local leaders in central Kenya, where reports say this 50-bed facility should have opened on Friday, are opposed to it. But the Kenyan government has not been fully transparent in terms of what deal they got into with the Americans. So far, there's been no response from the Kenyan government, and that is fueling a lot of speculation as to why President William Ruto's government got into this deal in the first place. And some Kenyans say it appears to be for the money, and they say return the money to the Americans and keep it safe, because they feel that the Kenyan health system, the healthcare infrastructure here is just not ready for an infectious virus like Ebola. Larry Medowo, CNN, Nairobi.
Hey, that's our Kenyan news affiliate, Larry Medowo from Nairobi, man. Come on, man, always standing on business.
It takes 90 seconds for this NASA-engineered AC cool down your...
Let's go, Larry, man. I see you, man. Hey, Larry, when you get a chance to see this, because you'll be seeing this, man. What's going on? What's que pasó, my guy? Huh? Nango? Idi nade, man. Idi nade o matter. All right. But yes, if you're just tuning in, I'm DJ Kadero, your anchor here on the Diaspora Show. And this is the Diaspora News segment of the Diaspora Show, exclusively on 87.9 The Culture, where hip-hop and R&B lives. We're just diving into our first story, talking about how the U.S. and Kenya's government have defied court orders on building a Ebola quarantine facility in Kenya for American citizens that have contracted the outbreak of this virus. Now, again, what you heard from that news clip is that the Katiba Institute and the Law Society of Kenya have sued, again, have brought petitions forward towards the Kenyan High Court. Again, they're saying that they should stop. Again, the construction of this facility should stop because it raises grave concerns, and constitutional concerns especially, regarding public participation and also national sovereignty. Again, freedom. Like, why? Why is this being built? Again, with tax dollars, possibly? Kenyan tax dollars? How? How did this... You got to ask the question, why are American lives being prioritized by the Kenyan government while locals are shut out? And also, why is it that American citizens are not being treated in their own country? Why are they choosing a country that never had the outbreak in the first place? I don't know. You guys let me know what your guys' thoughts are on that first story. I know that that's a lot to think about, but just know this, is that there's always two sides to every sandwich, and there's two sides to this story. In the chat, man, we got a lot. We know they greet, huh? Bombastic Side-Eye greets us. What's going on? What's going on? Bombastic Side-Eye says, good morning, DJ Kadero. What's up? DJ Mr. Soul also greets us with a fist bump. What's up? What's going on? And Bombastic Side-Eye said, Ebola is getting worse. Shaking my head. Alita says, what up, Kadero? What's going on, Lita? Yes, Bombastic Side-Eye, Ebola and the entire situation around the treatment of patients for Ebola, Bombastic, is getting worse. This is interesting, huh? Again, court orders have been placed, but what do you do to governments that say, what are court orders? What are they? Let's go to our second story, and it talks about how Ethiopia goes to the polls. Yes, Ethiopia, the land formerly known as Abyssinia. All right, so today, June 1st, 2026, a nation of over 130 million people is holding elections. Guys, millions and millions of people are registered to cast their ballots today, selecting members of the House of Representatives who will ultimately determine the Prime Minister. See, these elections are taking place under a lot of political and conflict tensions, huh? So Prime Minister of Ethiopia currently, Abiy Ahmed, and his political party, the Prosperity Party, is widely projected to secure a landslide victory. Are you guys hearing that, huh? And this is crucial. I mean, we must recognize that a genuine democratic process can't thrive in the absence of inclusivity, meaning that we need everybody. So they have African Union observers on the ground monitoring the polls. And the true test of Ethiopia's future will not be mattered by the ballot box, but by the ability to have every Ethiopian come together and foster genuine dialogue. For more on this, and to put it plainly, we go on the ground as well. Let's go to Ethiopia.
Voting got underway in Ethiopia on Monday morning in the country's parliamentary elections. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's Prosperity Party is on course for a landslide victory, despite criticism of growing authoritarianism and a crackdown on dissent. The PP won 96% of seats in the last election in 2021. Meanwhile, the opposition is divided across more than 40 parties and running with scant resources. Analysts and opponents have warned that this election will be even less open than previous votes, as the country faces multiple internal conflicts and ethnic divisions. Some 50 million people are eligible to vote, but residents of the northern Tigray region have been excluded, despite a 2022 agreement to ensure federal representation. Tigray fought a bloody 2-year civil war against the central government. Polls are scheduled to close at 6 p.m., with results expected in about 10 days.
Yeah. Oh, once again, if you're just joining in, I'm DJ Kadero, your anchor here on the Diaspora News. That's on the Diaspora Show on 87.9 The Culture, where hip-hop and R&B lives. We're getting into our second story. Again, letting you guys know that today, Ethiopian citizens are going to the election polls and to decide their parliamentary leaders that will ultimately decide the next prime minister for 2026 and beyond. Let me know, do you guys have any family members or friends in Ethiopia? And do you know if they are registered voters and if they're using their constitutional right to vote? Let me know. Let's get into our last story of the day, and we come here. Yes, we come to North America, specifically the United States, where protesters have been protesting against immigration detention center. All right, so protests have exploded. Yes, exploded outside the Delaney Hall Detention Center. That's a facility that is overseen and managed by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. You guys have probably heard of the other name that they go by. ICE. Yeah, ICE. So Delaney Hall detained immigrants inside, many of whom are of the African and African Caribbean diaspora, have launched hunger and labor strikes. Why? Why? Because they are demanding that their living conditions and retaliation from the guards be made better. What kind of living conditions? Well, let's talk about it. They've said that the treatment from the guards have been horrific, and basic human rights have not been respected. Reports have surfaced that guards have been pepper spraying detainees for just even speaking. So just to even talk, you have a pepper spray at your face. For more on the protest and what has been going on, we go on the ground. We go to CBS 2, our affiliate in New Jersey. Let's go.
At this hour, went off into the crowd, dispersing the crowd, ending what was already a chaotic day here in Newark. Things quickly spiraled out of control outside Delaney Hall Saturday night, where protesters overwhelmed state police, pushing down barricades, testing the limits of the so-called peaceful protest zone that was enforced by state officials. Multiple rounds of tear gas shot into the crowd, where officers in riot gear moved in, quickly getting a handle on the chaotic situation. An end to a day that saw heated clashes and escalating tension. All unfolding outside the immigration detention facility, where dueling protests unraveled in the morning. One side calling for the facility to be shut down, while the other a pro-ICE coalition.
They're being held in terrible conditions. They're being forced to sign their own deportation orders.
Anyone who is not here in this country legally, I mean, you need to go back. I mean, come back the right way.
Gabriela Soto is the wife of a detainee who is currently on a hunger strike.
He just wants to be out. He's tired of being in solitary confinement for doing nothing wrong. His bruises are going away, but it's still not justified.
Amid the tension, the increased police presence maintained order for the time being. Now, those verbal skirmishes paled in comparison to what happened right here last night, when New Jersey State Police in full riot gear clashed with protesters as they rolled out new measures outside Delaney Hall, where demonstrations have intensified. Saturday night now marks the second night of unrest. State officials today pinned the blame on agitators.
We know that people from outside the state have been interfering in the protests and escalating them. 5 of the 6 people arrested last night by state police were from outside New Jersey.
While a total of 6 people were arrested Friday night, it's unclear how many were detained during Saturday's clashes. In Newark, Andrew Ramos, CBS News, New York.
And the Department of Homeland Security says detainees get 3 meals a day and have access to comprehensive medical care, and that they remain committed to restoring law and order at the Immigration Center.
Aw, that's nice. 3 meals a day, and they are given the best health care. Yeah, we'll see about that. Guys, what do you see, outside of those gates, outside of that detention center for detainees of, again, alleged violation of being in the United States illegally, activists and community organizers are facing off with armed state police of New Jersey and also Department of Homeland Security agents. So New Jersey's office of the ACLU has condemned the cruel treatment and retaliation against these individuals. As the diaspora, we know the oppression of black and brown people doesn't stop at the borders. When our people face inhumane treatment in the diaspora's detention camps, it's our collective duty to amplify their voices and to hold systems accountable. We stand in solidarity with the organizers and the detainees at Delaney Hall. Or let us know what your thoughts are. You're African diaspora, you're listening to this show. Maybe you support ICE. We want to hear directly from you. I'm serious. Maybe you are even an ICE agent yourself. Let us know. All right, well, let me see what we got in the chat before we go to our music break. We don't have anything just yet, but we're going to go ahead and get to our music break before we get to our African proverb of the day. I am DJ Kadero. This has been the Diaspora News here on 87.9 The Culture, where hip-hop and R&B lives. It is Reggae Monday, where everything is supposed to be Irie. I gave you guys some heavy stories. That's pretty heavy, huh? 2 heavy stories. Again, an Ebola facility that is to be built against Kenyan court orders with the agreement of the United States and Kenyan official government. And then also detainees at an ICE detention center in New Jersey being subject to inhumane treatment. But how about this, guys? Let's give it a music break, give you guys time to maybe grab that extra cup of tea, coffee, Madida, Uji Brown especially. Man, I'm a big Uji Brown fan. Uji White, not really, but Uji Brown. Anyways, go ahead and do what you need to do during this music break. When we come back, we'll have the African proverb of the day. I'm DJ Kadero, and remember, it's Reggae Monday. Everything's supposed to be Irie.